Gotta call 988 again. This is stupid.
Reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Para español, marque el número 2. To talk to the Veterans Crisis Line, press 1. To connect to support. Your call is now being transferred to the Veterans Crisis Line. Your call will be recorded. Your call may be monitored for quality assurance purposes. During the silent transfer, you may hear beeps. Please stay on the line as your call is transferred to the next available VCL responder. Thank you for calling the Veterans and Military Crisis Line. This is Latrish. How may I support you?
Hello, my name is Sean Schwartz. And
Sean.
you could support me by taking some details and turning them into the proper authorities.
Okay.
One of the things that I am sent to, I'm sent to all these different lines as mandated reporters, but then instead of these lines doing the mandated reporter thing, when me as an at-risk and disabled adult have to turn in crimes, I have to go to a mandated reporter. I don't have any friends or family. So I know that the process...
So your last name, Sean?
Schwartz, Schwartz.
Okay. And are you having any current thoughts of suicide,
All right,
Sean?
so we're going to go through the checklist. No, I'm not having any thoughts of suicide. I'm not having any thoughts of harming others. No, I don't have a plan for committing suicide. Yes, I get that you want to set up a short-term plan instead of taking details about the abuse. I do understand if I talk too long, you're going to start telling me to go to 211 or to 911. 911 and 211 will do the same thing, and they'll send me right back to you. Now, then there's also the tactic of trying to send me on to housing instead of taking details, or talking over me once I start telling the names and the dates and the actual details that are needed in order to make a proper report. And then there's the fact that I'm repeatedly talked over by mandated reporters after trying to push me on the housing thing, ignoring the fact that I'm going to them over a crisis of abuse. I'm being abused. That's the crisis. Instead of focusing on every little thing that can be used to try to weed me out, no, I don't have any friends or family. So I understand that the chances of me being blown off because there's no fear of consequences as mandated reporters is not there. And that is very sad for me. I get it. You're sorry. I get it. Being told that I'm sorry or having mandated reporters say, oh, well, I didn't do that to you. Well, here's the thing, is that a mandated reporter interrupting me to tell me, oh, well, I didn't do it. That makes it about them. Of course, then there's also the victim blaming and the victim shaming of, oh, well, you shouldn't have done this and you shouldn't have done that, when you are explaining that you were forced to do desperate things because you're being abused. Or the, well, what do they call that treatment when it's female victims? The, are you sure you didn't ask for it a little bit treatment? The insinuation that it's the victim's fault. And when you hear that out of law enforcement, out of 988, out of 211 or 911, that's a horrible thing to have to endure. Now, if I talk calmly and collectively, then I'm treated like this is not an issue, like it's not a major thing, and like pawning me off instead of doing your job as a mandated reporter immediately for the victim. You know, that's a $2,000 fine in Oregon. It's a possibility of $1,000 fine and up to a year in prison or a year in jail in Nebraska. In Colorado, it's up to 6 months in jail and a $2,000 fine. Every state has, well, obvious consequences for mandated reporters who don't do their jobs. Now then, when I try to turn in crimes to mandated reporters and they want to talk over me and send me to somebody else automatically because I'm homeless, that's inhumane. One of the things that's used to screen us out is to ask if we have our own place. And that's used to try to interject and change the topic over to where we're now talking about housing and going to housing and something that takes a long time. When a victim is being harmed by the same predators over and over and over again, and the only help that they're getting is sent to other lines, all of them eventually trying to pull this rabbit out of their hat to send us to housing that takes over 2 years to get, we're still out here on the streets being victimized for that 2 years, and we're being told by our predators that we need to leave, we need to leave, we need to leave. When we go to the cops and the therapists, they tell us, oh, well, have you thought about moving? Yeah, I've thought about moving. I've moved repeatedly.
Okay. Well, Sean, would you like to share more about what exactly you need support with today? It sounds like you've made several outreaches and several tips regarding your situation.
No, I've made thousands of phone calls. I've made thousands of phone calls, and you don't get to use me being blown off by thousands of phone calls to pretend like people offered me adequate help or acknowledged the abuse that I'm going through. No, pawning me off onto someone else just like everyone else does is not okay. I'm trying to give details, and I'm also trying to tell you about the abuse. You haven't shared, Sean, how can I support you now? What is it you need support with today? I started off with that. I need you to take down the details of the crimes against me so that they can be turned in properly. Okay, so you've reached the Veterans Crisis Line. Are you a veteran, Sean? I'm not a veteran, and I've called here before. I've also called the civilian one, and all three of the ladies that I spoke with from the Veterans Crisis Line so far have told me that it's okay to call the Veterans Crisis Line, especially since I have problems with the other two lines. I actually recorded the other two lines committing felonies against me, which is pretty messed up. Okay. So I just wanted to just know if you was a veteran or not, okay? So I can know what resources to offer you to. I don't need you to offer me resources. I need you to take down details of crimes and do the job as a mandated reporter. Okay, sir. But you haven't shared what that crime is. I keep trying to do that, and you keep changing the subject and trying to make it about now what resources you want to send me to. I don't need you to send me to resources. I need you to allow me to give you the details. Sean, when did this incident happen? All right, so one of the incidents just happened yesterday. I was arrested for calling 911 after being told to call 911 by 988 Veterans Crisis Line and also 211. Now, the crimes that started this was the death of Natalie Bollinger, getting her brains blown out in Colorado. But my immediate safety is at the hands of police officers going back for over a year, and I've tried to turn it in repeatedly immediately when the situations happened. I've tried to follow the safety protocols that I'm told to follow in order to keep myself safe, but none of that stops officers from breaking the law. I tried to turn in crimes that were committed by a woman who was stalking me here in Tillamook named Molly. Also a man who stalked me here from Hood River named James Murphy. Now, I'm a disabled and at-risk adult with autism. I have stuttering problems, and I have to practice what I say before I say it. When people interrupt me and want to change the subject, they derail the train, betray my trust, and make me very afraid to turn in the crimes that are committed. Now, Tony Lotham, when I first got to this town and I was being harassed and having my life threatened by a woman named Molly, including vandalism against my vehicle and, coming up to my vehicle and screaming in my face. Lothman pawned me off onto mental health. Mental health pawned me off onto the police, and they played ping pong with me back and forth. I did turn it in immediately. That officer and his co-worker, Trent Olson, did not bother to try collecting evidence, did not try talking to the people in Fred Meyer's to get the camera. They did not try doing anything except pawning me off onto mental health and pawning me off onto others. Now, that woman, Molly, continued to terrorize myself and over a dozen other people that I have as witnesses recorded on my channel. She kept on threatening us, threatening to kill us, saying any false thing that she could, trying to play on bias against men and trying to play on the fact that she is an elderly woman. Now, whether she is an elderly woman or not does not detract from the fact that she was committing crimes against me, maliciously and intentionally trying to have people harm me. And that's never okay. The fact that she vandalized my vehicle after 6 weeks and I was, again, threatened, harassed, and intimidated by police officers for trying to turn it in. Again, they didn't bother to look at any evidence. And in that situation, I was victimized again by Fred Myers, by some of the employees there, because they're just going to assume that the woman is telling the truth. Now, there are multiple witnesses there, over a dozen of them that I recorded that were in the parking lot, including Dallas Palmer and a lot of his friends, as well as many of the Scudder family. The police know who these people are. The police literally made zero attempt to contact any of them, to make any attempt to get any information about the situation. They made literally zero attempt in all of that time, but they did come up and repeatedly harass me because Molly called them, including her trying to pretend that the guy that she was with, Tom, had dementia and that he needed to be taken back to her camp. He was petrified of her. Now, she repeatedly spread slander that people threaten, harm, and kill people over, often. Things that I literally never did to her, and neither did Tom. Now, she wanted to claim that she was afraid I might do those things, and that's not the same as somebody doing those things or threatening those things. And for her to vandalize my vehicle and the cops literally not interview any of the witnesses, not take the situation seriously, and blow me off again and again because I'm homeless, this is inhumane, because I am still a disabled person who can't take care of himself or defend himself. Now, the immediate situation is that the officers here for the last 11 months have been able to ship me around in circles, everybody telling me that it's not their job to investigate. And then at the end of it, I'm told, oh, well, you should have called it in to begin with. I did. I called it in repeatedly, over and over and over again, and I was told to go to other people for help, and those people all tell me it's not their job. You are all mandated reporters, and so are all these other places. Now, the situation with Lothman resulted in him threatening me and harassing me on multiple occasions. When I tried to turn him in, when I was told to turn it in to his superior officers, he showed up. When I was told to go to the hospital and try to turn it in there, because they're supposed to have a social worker show up along with a police officer to take your report at the hospital. At the hospital, they did call it in. Thank goodness. That was on November 22nd, I believe, of last year. They also gave me a sheet of paper of instructions to follow to try to turn it in. Well, that piece of paper they gave me, it doesn't matter that that's what I'm supposed to follow as protocol. What matters is that none of the places that it told me to call or contact would do anything about it. I followed all of the proper protocols and procedures based on my abilities and my disabilities, and instead I'm abused for being disabled. Also, I have a stuttering problem.
Do you have a social worker? Do you have a assigned social worker that you're working with directly?
No, they haven't assigned me one. That's the thing. I've been sent around in circles for over a year here. I was sent in circles for over 7 months in Hood River before I was here. No social worker. They're pawning me off onto places that just want to stuff me in housing, but they know that it takes years to get into housing and that I am a disabled and at-risk adult who is on the streets now. I am being abused now. I am having to take this abuse now. I'm also told that if I'm not literally dealing with it right this second, that it's not a crime. No, I have to fear these predators for the rest of my life because police officers didn't do something when it was taken to them the very first time. They didn't do their jobs as mandated reporters, and now that I'm trying to turn them in for not doing their jobs as mandated reporters, they're abusing their position of power to have me arrested, to have me harmed, to help out my predators with getting away with committing crimes against me. That's the problem with mandated reporters not doing their jobs, is that all of these mandated reporters have positions of power that they can abuse to have me harmed for going to them because they didn't do their jobs the first time, because they don't want to lose their jobs, because they don't want to pay a $2,000 fine here in Oregon, or pay a $1,000 fine and a year in jail in Nebraska, or 6 months in Colorado and a $2,000 fine.
Yes, sir. Okay, Sean. Well, it sounds like you've had multiple incidents and that you've had to endure, and that you tried to report these over and over again. Is what I hear you're saying,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
that you have already reached out to several different resources, and you do not have a social worker in the state of Oregon.
I
You
do
have
not.
attempted to get a social worker because I hear your frustration, Sean, and that you feel like you just keep getting passed along.
No, I am just
So,
getting passed along. It's not just I
right.
feel like I am. I literally am. My disabilities are being
Okay.
taken advantage of by law enforcement
Okay.
and by these facilities
Yes,
that
sir.
obviously are getting paid for me going there. These people aren't working for free, but I'm not benefiting from it at all. What I'm getting is bullied, harassed, threatened, lied to, and it costs me money to go to these resources. It costs me gas that I don't have. I live on $800 a month in disability money. No matter
Yes,
what,
sir.
people try to pull
So
any carrot
did you
out of
ever
their hat
find
that they can
housing?
that they believe makes it valid for them not to turn in the crimes against me. Officer Lothman has
Right.
repeatedly threatened, harassed, and intimidated me and bullied me for trying to turn him in, including lying about me to other homeless people and to drug addicts out here to try to have me harmed, including claiming that I touch little kids and that I'm wanted for murder. If I was wanted for murder, they would have arrested me.
So have you reached out to any local shelters? Do you have you tried to find housing?
Ma'am, now you're changing the subject again. See, it's difficult to give you
Yes, well,
details
sir.
when you're changing the subject. You're changing it to try to put me into a homeless shelter. I've looked into that already.
No,
I used to be the homeless
trying to
liaison in Boulder, Colorado.
resources.
You're not trying to
I'm
offer
trying
me
to offer.
resources, you're trying to offer me phone numbers. There's a big difference. A resource
Well,
denotes that it's there.
numbers of calls, sir. Right,
Do what?
sir. So what I don't want, I hear what you're saying, and I've heard your concerns with the complaints that you have, I don't want to repeat things that you've already been told, because you said that at the beginning of the call, that you've been told the same thing over and over again, and I'm not here to do that to you and make you keep hearing the same things that you refer to as excuses. But I do want to just be transparent with you and let you know that at the crisis line, there is a limited resources that I can offer you, a limited support that I can offer you. So I don't want you to.
Are you a
feel like
mandated reporter? Are you a mandated reporter? Every time I start giving you details, you start talking over me and changing the subject again, trying to send me to other services. I'm trying to give you details, and then when you talk over me, and then you tell me that I didn't give enough information. Well, if you would stop talking over me, I could give more information.
You've given enough information. You've given me enough. I didn't say you didn't give me enough information. I said you have given me enough information. However, I'm not. There's nothing I can do with the information that you provided to me. I can offer you some resources to reach out to other.
I didn't give you enough information for you to do your job as a mandated reporter. That's what I'm asking. Have I given you enough information for you to do your job? And there you are changing the subject yet again. Have I given you enough information for you to do your job as a mandated reporter?
I want to redirect the conversation to what prompted you to make the call today. Okay, I want us to stay focused.
I wanted you to do your job as a mandated reporter, and I stated that at the beginning. You are again going out of your way to change the subject for questions that I have already answered. Have I given you? Have I given?
Have you had past thoughts of suicide? Did you answer that you had past thoughts of suicide? You didn't answer.
And again, you were going through a checklist instead of listening to the victim. You were going out of your way to dig for excuses. Whether or not I have had past thoughts of suicide has nothing to do with the abuse that I am enduring. Okay? All that will do, all that will serve as, is an excuse to have me harmed. What I am telling you. What I am asking you, have I given you enough information on the crimes committed against me for you to turn them in as a mandated reporter?
You're not in a crisis right now.
I am in a crisis right now, which is why I called.
Okay. So you're not, you haven't answered the questions.
Ma'am, the crisis that I am in is that I'm taking abuse. You are going out of your way to change the subject over and over again. This is not appropriate. All right, this is highly inappropriate. This is the opposite of a mandated reporter's job, and you aren't answering the most simple questions, and you are demanding of me to answer the questions that you want.
No, I'm
Here's
not
the thing.
demanding
Have
anything,
I
sir.
given you
I'm
enough
offering you, sir.
information for you to turn in these crimes as a mandated reporter? Or are you going to allow me to finish the details without interrupting me to change the subject instead of allowing me to give details?
No, sir. I think you've shared enough. And if you're not in imminent risk or danger right now, if you're not willing to
I
answer
am
the
in a risk
questions,
for
I'm offering
danger,
you.
and that's what I've been
Oh,
explaining
oh,
to you, but you keep
oh,
interrupting me to
and,
change the subject.
sir, I'm not going to go back and forth
You
with
are
you,
being
okay?
irrational,
Right?
and you're going out of your way not to do your jobs.
No.
This is highly inappropriate.
Okay,
I'd like to speak to your
sir,
supervisor.
sir.
Please put me on the
And both
phone with
can't
your
talk at the
supervisor.
same time. At the
That's
same
right,
time.
it's not your turn to
And you've
talk.
reached.
Please put me on the phone with your supervisor. Number one, listen to the victim, and number two, believe them.
Sir,
I
I didn't
need to
say I
talk
didn't
to your
believe.
supervisor.
What I'm telling you is
I'm
you called the
asking you to
crisis
speak to your
line, and I
supervisor.
first want to
Ma'am,
make
this is
sure
inappropriate. I
that
need
I'm
to speak to
able.
your supervisor. This is inappropriate. You need to put me on the phone with your
Okay,
supervisor.
okay. I'm gonna put you on hold, okay?
Thank you. Platate 2009. Please stop fighting for attention. Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I just turned my car on so that my battery wouldn't die on my phone.
Oh, okay, no problem.
All right, what was that you said? Because I had to turn off my car, so I didn't hear the first thing you said.
Oh, no, I had just came back to the call. I just said hello. I was just let you know I was still here. I was attempting to contact a supervisor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, sir. I was getting some guidance. So yes, sir. I was able to reach a supervisor at the moment. But I just want to just reiterate for you the purpose of the crisis line here, because I don't want you to get upset again while we're trying to have this conversation. We're here to accept imminent calls, like they didn't want to come calls in with imminent risk. And so the resources I was offering you were resources based on what you
I'm well aware of the resources that you are offering me and why, because I've been through this before. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to turn in the abuse that I've endured.
No, I completely understand your intention. I just want you to be clear on our role here at the crisis line, that we don't receive those kind of complaints. I want to offer you the resources that do.
No, they don't. You need to stop pushing me onto those resources, because I have recorded calls with them as well that show that they don't. They don't. They pawn us off onto you. That's how I ended up calling you to begin with, is that 211 pawned me off onto you guys.
Well,
211 I was pawned off on by 911.
I'm not for sure why, because we're the crisis line for those who have any mental health concerns, at risk for suicide, or need someone to talk to.
That's your job as a crisis line counselor, yes, but you still have the primary job of being a mandated reporter. If someone if their crisis is that they're being abused,
I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I'm
good. Then please get me a hold of your supervisor.
Okay. Have you already spoken to a supervisor today at the crisis line? Okay. Because I can transfer you to the local crisis line. All right, which is
ma'am, I would like to speak to your supervisor. Please stop changing the subject, please. Please stop trying to pawn me off on someone else other than your direct supervisor.
Sir, hear what I'm saying to you, okay?
Ma'am, it's
I
not your turn to
understood
speak anymore. It
everything
is
that
inappropriate. Your behaviors on this call have been inappropriate. It is
sir,
inappropriate for you to
you're
do
not
anything
allowed
other
me
than
to
allow me to speak to your
explain.
supervisor. Ma'am, you will not allow me to speak. It is not your turn. Please put me on the phone with your
Okay,
supervisor.
okay. So here, to explain. Hold 1 second. I'm going to transfer you. Okay. Okay. Please hold, sir.
I am.
Hello, sir?
Hello.
Okay. All right, I had to,
Sorry,
can you hear me?
let me unplug this. Oh, come on.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, sir. So I have May on the line to support you, okay?
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, May. Are you the supervisor?
Hello. No, this is 988 Nebraska.
The lady
I
that I
wasn't
was
told
just...
that you requested a supervisor.
You weren't?
No.
Well, I did specifically ask for a supervisor, so... A matter of fact, I stated it repeatedly, and the lady just played stupid and wanted to send me to other places. The lady who just transferred to me to you is the lady that I was trying to turn in, and I was trying to talk to her immediate supervisor, and she said that she would do so.
Oh,
If you're not the supervisor, I need to be transferred to a supervisor.
well, let's see. Typically what we do is I don't know what the complaint was. You said you had some issues with her. That was the veterans line. So this is not. This is the
Ma'am,
988 Nebraska.
Well,
So,
I need to be transferred. Ma'am, it was inappropriate for that woman to send me to you to begin with. But while you're here, I might as well try to utilize the fact that you're here to turn in the crimes that were committed in Nebraska, as well as the literally hundreds of calls that I made to mandated reporters who did exactly the same thing that the Veterans Crisis Line lady did, which is absolutely refused to do her job as a mandated reporter, to talk over me. However, my safety right now here in Oregon needs to be a top priority, and mandated reporters going out of their way to do what that woman just did, which is transfer me to you, that is not appropriate. And that is just one of the things that mandated reporters have done for the last 7 years. Natalie Bollinger was shot in the head in 2017 in Colorado, but the abuse that I've been enduring on the internet and in real life have been going on since over a year before that. Mandated reporters for over a year and a half wanted to pawn me off. Even when I got housing, they wanted to keep on pawning me off onto others. It was nobody's job. 911 sent me to 211. 211 sent me to suicide hotline. Or, of course, they'd send me to the police department that I'm trying to turn in. The police department would say that they can't investigate themselves. I have to go to the Nebraska Attorney General's office or to the state police. I'd go to the Nebraska Attorney General's office. They say I got to go to the state police or the FBI. All these people tell me that it's not their jobs. And then they end up playing victim and blocking me from calling them because they didn't want to do their jobs. Does this make sense? Scott DaCosta,
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Scott DaCosta assaulted me on, I believe it was December 16th of 2020, I believe. 2020. This is after over a year and a half of me trying to turn him in for threats, harassment, and intimidation by his officers when I tried to turn them in, and I was forced to turn them into themselves when they told me that I had to turn it into Nebraska State Police. Nebraska State Police said they don't police the police. I have to go back to Sheriff Scott DaCosta to turn him into himself. They also lied to me about the ability to get a protection order. They just kept on lying to me. Anything to change the subject. Anything to prevent me from turning them in. Forcing me to turn in Scott DaCosta to himself is a felony. It is a felony for the dispatch operators that told me to do it. What that resulted in is me being arrested for calling Scott DaCosta's number. Sorry, the Dual County Sheriff's Department's number. Over and over again one night. I didn't call them over and over and over again. I called them. They told me I had to call the state police. I called the state police. They said they don't police the police, that I had to go back to Dual County Sheriff's Department. I went back to Dual County Sheriff's Department. This is after 18 months of this. And, of course, in that one night, I spent almost 3 hours going back and forth Whoever they told me to call. Finally, Nebraska State Patrol said they were going to send out an investigator and they were going to send out somebody to get me and get my safety secured. When that guy showed up, it wasn't a state patrolman, it was Sheriff Scott DaCosta to come punish me for trying to turn him in. They pressed charges against me for illegally using 911 over crimes that were committed against me, ongoing crimes. Now, they're ongoing because first responders pawn me off, not because I'm not trying, not because I didn't call 911 immediately, not because I didn't tell the truth to the police immediately, not because there was nobody there, not because there was no witnesses, and not because I hallucinated it. I record everything for a reason. I recorded the Veterans Crisis Line so that I could show how they're doing this. I recorded 911 and 211. I recorded the interactions with police officers. I also recorded the interactions with all other mandated reporters that I went to, each and every one of them knowing that it takes longer than 2 years to get housing in any part of the United States, and that it is beating a dead horse to make somebody do something like that because they don't want to do their jobs as a mandated reporter. They don't want to turn in bad cops. They don't want to turn in their employees. They don't want to turn in their coworkers. They don't want to turn in their friends. But the fact is, the laws, according to mandated reporters, is that they have to, even if it's their friend, even if they're off duty.
Okay.
So Scott
That sounds
DaCosta,
like that's a lot. Oh, go ahead.
Scott DaCosta assaulted me on that particular occasion, along with a, what was his name? State Trooper Lassen. They assaulted me, tripped me, physically assaulted me, twisted my leg, knowing that I had leg injuries, stuck their knee on the back of my neck, wrenched on my arms.
Wow.
This is not okay.
A lot.
They knew I had pre-existing injuries. Then they sent me to Scotts Bluff in a different jurisdiction
Right.
where I was...
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just going to wait for you to clear your throat.
Okay. No, I was just... go ahead. Yeah.
So where was I at?
They sent you to Scotts Bluff under a different jurisdiction.
Yes, ma'am. And in Scotts Bluff, I was abused by the guards in there. They wouldn't allow me my rights, wouldn't allow me access, and wanted to bully me and bully me and bully me and bully me. And I've got the names of those officers too. But the thing is, I was a dual county arrest. Now, I was released, and then I had to try to find my own way home. This is the third or fourth time that I had to do that with Scott DaCosta. Every time I tried to turn in Scott DaCosta, they abused their power to arrest me and prevent me from getting heard. They even lied to hospitals and told hospitals and jails that I was schizophrenic. Scott DaCosta cannot diagnose schizophrenia. Now, that sheriff's abuse and the abuse by his officers resulted in a lot more abuse against me, and it resulted in me having to flee Nebraska, having to flee assisted living in Nebraska because they wouldn't do their jobs for a broke homeless man. And I wasn't homeless. I had been homeless, but that's the way that they're always going to see me there. Now, with the sheriff running around and telling people that I'm schizophrenic, how well do you think I was treated there? Not very.
No. Wow. So, it sounds very, well, first of all, exhausting and frustrating, everything that you've been through.
So anyway,
with the different organizations and the lack of support
did you write down the details about Scott DaCosta and Lassen assaulting me in December of 2021 or 2020?
Sure. Yep.
And are you going to turn them in? There's also...
So,
Read back to me
Go
what you're
ahead.
turning in so I can make sure that you got the details right.
That's quite a bit of information. I know that pretty much I summarized. But um, what we're gonna do is typically, as far as turning people in, we only turn in for abuse, sexual assault, neglect.
And
We're not
that's
APS, or so we typically report the abuse by children. Children that are being abused.
your job as mandated
APS
reporters.
reports.
But before you do this, understand that I spent 7 years in Colorado working with Colorado or with Boulder Homeless Outreach. I was the community
Right.
liaison for the homeless. I know all about the mandated reporter stuff.
Oh,
In
okay.
specific, it's about children, the elderly, which means they're 65 or older, and in some states 60 or older, or disabled adults in at-risk situations. Whether they are physically disabled or mentally disabled is arbitrary. My physical disabilities are documented, and my mental disability is post-traumatic stress disorder from abuse and assaults and rapes. These are exactly the crimes that I'm trying to turn in. I understand that right now I'm able to mask really well and hide how scared I am to even talk to you. But the thing is that I called this line because I was told that you guys were mandated reporters, and you are. And when it comes to abuse against at-risk adults, the first question that you should be asking isn't about if they're trying to harm themselves or others and just power pound that in housing at them. You're supposed to care if they're being abused. If they are being abused, you're supposed to take
Of course
details.
we care.
Well, you didn't take
Right.
details. The important details were the names and the dates there. That's the stuff that I have the most problems with because of autism and because I'm grilled when I try to go to the police alone, when I try to go to 211 alone, when I try to go to 911 alone. They always try to pawn me off like it's not their job. It is their job. And with ongoing abuse, yes, absolutely, the state is supposed to step in, but they're not going to step in when mandated reporters aren't turning in any of the crimes that I'm telling them about. When they're pawning me off on other agencies, sending me to a completely different phone line altogether, like that lady from 988 Veterans, that's not appropriate. I was trying to turn her in to her supervisor, and you can hear in the tone of your voice that you're bored and you don't want to hear it anymore. And I get that. I really do. I understand. Especially
No,
when it comes to male victims.
actually,
Go ahead.
oh my goodness, no, that is not the case at all. And since you don't know me, no, I was actually reading and I was just wondering. So, the transfer came from a veteran, and are you a veteran?
Ma'am, I was trying to turn it in. I was trying to turn in that lady to her supervisor. I was
I
called by.
understand, but I was just trying to.
Ma'am,
Go ahead.
I was trying to get a hold of her supervisor, and she was supposed to transfer me to her supervisor. Instead, she transferred me to you,
Yeah.
and that is not my fault. However, I did state to her at the very beginning of the call that I needed her to do her job as a mandated reporter, and that is why I called. And she repeatedly, throughout the conversation, said that I did not state why I called, that I wasn't telling them what I needed, that I wasn't trying to work with them. And no, this is exactly not the case. Pawning me off on others is not doing her job as a mandated reporter. And pawning me off on you is not doing her job as a mandated reporter. And also, not transferring me to her immediate supervisor is against the law. What she is doing is putting my life at further risk by, number one, not documenting what it is that I'm telling her, and number two, going out of her way to pawn me off on you so that she doesn't get in trouble for not doing her job. Meanwhile, you're not doing your job either.
What do you think that is? What do you think I'm not doing exactly?
Well, ma'am, I'm trying to tell you the details of the abuse that I'm enduring, and obviously you didn't write it down. There were too many details, so on and so forth. So how are you going to turn in
Right.
something that you didn't write anything down and can't remember any
So,
details?
well, yeah, well, you're an adult.
You're an adult as well, which is
Typically,
why it's inappropriate for you to be
you're
paid to
not,
be
but
acting
you're
like a
not letting
child
me
because you got
finish.
busted
You're
lying.
not letting
You're
me
not letting
finish.
me finish. That's the
Sir,
problem,
you're
is
not,
that none of you
no,
are letting
you're
me
not
finish.
letting
I
me
want to speak
finish.
to your
You asked me a
supervisor.
question.
I would like to speak to your supervisor.
Well, we don't really transfer to our supervisors,
I would like
but
to
you're not
speak to
letting
your
me finish.
supervisor.
And that's fine. You're continuing to be aggressive, and you're
I'm
not
not
letting me
being
finish
aggressive.
what I
You're
need to
playing
say.
stupid and talking over me. You're pretending that you're naive
No,
about
I'm
your
not playing
position.
stupid.
I'm really
You're
trying
not letting me
hard to assume
finish.
that you're more intelligent than you
Okay.
are then.
So we're not going to argue. But
I'd
you
like
know,
to
you're not
speak to
going
your
to insult me. We're
supervisor.
not going to go down that road either.
I would like to speak to your
Well, I can
supervisor.
pass on the message. You're
No,
not
no,
going
no,
to.
no, no, no. It
I
is
can
my
pass
right
on
to
the
speak to your.
message,
You are
and
putting my
then
life
we
at
can go
risk
from
by
there. We're
doing
not.
this. You are putting my life at risk by
Yeah.
talking over me, not allowing me to speak, not allowing me to give
Well, you
details,
can
not
always
listening
call
to details.
911.
Ma'am, you are again going out of your way to change the subject and to try to redirect me to somebody else, the same as the last lady. This is highly inappropriate, and you are being recorded, obviously. Your lifeline says that you're being recorded and
And
that
you're
I'm
being
being
recorded
recorded.
as well. So,
I'm
yeah.
aware of that. That's the
Okay,
whole reason
we're going to
for
go
this.
ahead and wrap up this call because this call, unfortunately, is not going anywhere.
That's because you're
And
not
I'm
doing
not
your
being
job.
allowed to speak, to respond to your questions or statements. And I know you're pretty agitated
No, ma'am,
and
you're going out of your
frustrated,
way to
but,
not
you
do
know,
your
there
job,
has
and
to
you're
be
going out of your way
a
to agitate the situation. You're also
conversation
playing
both
victim, and you're talking over
ways.
me. This is
There has to be a
inappropriate, and it's not okay
conversation
for you to
both
be
ways.
antagonistic and act like a
Okay.
5-year-old.
Well, I'm going to go ahead
This
and
is
end the
inappropriate.
call.
This
I'm
is
ending the call
inappropriate.
right
This is
now. Your
inappropriate.
concerns will
Put
be
me on the
passed
phone
along.
with your
Thank you
supervisor.
for
Put
calling.
me on the phone with
Goodbye.
your supervisor. Put me on the phone with your supervisor. All right, I guess we get to read some messages before my phone dies. Let's see. Tate 2009 typed hi. Rick Anderson typed hello, Sean. Peter Summerfield typed, you're doing well on this call. You aren't shouting or swearing despite how frustrating this is. Keep it up. Peter Summerfield typed, is this Christmas music? Dog at Empire. Boy, are they playing dumb. Oh, they sent you to a whole new line. Dog at Empire type, yeah, that's what I figured. She just said it. Sorry, dude. Yeah, well, it would be a lot easier if you guys would make the calls with me instead of watching. It's the truth. If you guys could turn this in, you guys have heard the conversations. Literally, turn in this video. Turn it into the Oregon state line. Send this video and a link to every organization in Oregon that you can find and every organization in Nebraska and Colorado. Show how hard I am trying. Send it to every news organization that you can possibly think of and explain that I am going out of my way to try to get help and that I am being abused at every step of the way by mandated reporters. Dog at Empire type, I will send it. There's also a lot of other videos of my abuse that I'm sure you guys have seen. Please collect the names and the links, and please send them in. Please explain that I have tried making these calls over and over again, that I am bullied until I have a mental breakdown, and then they victimize me when I have a mental breakdown. You've heard them time and again. All they want to do is change the subject and bully me, and they are bullying. Any of you, do you agree that this is bullying by mandated reporters? If you agree, type, I agree that you are being bullied by mandated reporters. Although, most of the people who get on here type some really mean things. If you type it entirely out, that way I can screenshot it, and that would allow me to actually post it up as a screenshot on the face of one of my videos, showing others that it's not just me. I do like your name. The tag that I go by is Dogged Roman. So it's similar. I assume you play Empire Total War? Dogged Empire typed, I agree you are being bullied by mandated reporters. Yep, me too. So that's the thing, is that there's a lot of people who agree, but they don't turn it in. They say there's nothing they can do. And then when the police lie to us all and they say the things that they are, you got to know your laws. You got to know the rights. And you also got to pay attention to what my predators were allowed to do. Look at their paperwork. Look how they were able to prevent me from going to court, from facing my accusers, from showing evidence. How they were able to deprive me of my resources and paint me as a bad guy, claiming that I got tens of thousands of dollars from GoFundMes. I didn't get a penny from GoFundMes. I didn't start those GoFundMes. They were started by others. I tried to start them and needed help, but nobody would help me. They kept promising me that if I brought them cigarettes, if I gave them food, if I bought Magic the Gathering cards, there was all sorts of stuff that people wanted and needed. Dogged Roman, or Dogged Empire type, that is cool. And yep, I play that game. I assume that's what your name is from. I called myself Dogged Roman when I first started playing Rome Total War, the first one. I wanted to make my profile Roman Dog, but it was already taken. So I made it Dogged Roman. It was over a war game that I got my gamer tag. That's right, large unit tactics. Zoom out. I was pretty good at it too. I got to fight against second ranked in the world, which is pretty cool. We both played on, what do they call that, off accounts. Basically, you have a fresh account. It's just you versus the other guy. You get the same amount of gold, same amount of money. You don't have any special privileges on your generals or any of that. Dogged Empire type. Oh man. There has been so many people ripped off by the people starting a GoFundMe for them, and they never see a cent of them. And yeah, the best names are always taken. Haha. Yep. All right. So the thing about the GoFundMe thing is that many of my predators, especially in these web sleuth groups, they type that I ripped people off for thousands of dollars through GoFundMe and things like that. And I'm not allowed to defend myself against this slander. It's allowed in courts. Because no matter what, it all hinges on the cops being willing to do their jobs, and they won't. Especially not after they've blown you off because you were a homeless man. That all of these fucking assholes on YouTube and in real life made me go in by myself because they wouldn't help me immediately when I reached out to them. And I was bullied immediately when I called 911. I've also got the police doing exactly the same thing as 911, 988. They blow me off for months and then tell me that I should have called 911. No, what they're doing is trying to put in a false narrative. Dogged Empire type, there's no such thing as a good cop. I agree. This video is about to die. The way that you type dogged, just type the word Roman. You play Rome Total War. You know Roman is spelled R-O-M-A-N. It's all one word for me. doggedroman@gmail.com. What I can do from my phone is send a couple of things at a time. It does take a while, and it hurts my hands to be able to do it. But it's like trying to type and text with you. It's hurtful to me. But type doggedroman@gmail.com. And I will literally send you a piece of evidence from Natalie herself. I will literally forward it from her email address. It's the email that I exposed her dad with on December 12th of 2017, 3 weeks before she got her brains blown out. Two weeks before she was able to get a protection order. Well, it was actually 4 days before she was able to get a protection order against me. I didn't even know she was in the state of Colorado. I was pissed off because she claimed she was in Colorado and she wanted to meet me at Starbucks on Pearl. I told her I didn't feel safe there since when she rescued me, and that I'd rather meet at the police station. And I posted that evidence up time and time again. But no one ever helps me to turn it in. They say, I'm sorry. Well, fuck you to say I'm sorry. Fuck anybody who wants to say I'm sorry. That is the first sign that they're not going to do jack shit. They say, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. I'm in a different state. My predators were allowed to turn me in from any state in the union. All right. Peter Summerfield typed, dogged, having or showing tenacity or grim persistence. Does that not describe me? Does that not describe me, Peter Summerfield? Now, obviously, you guys have seen that bullying. You've seen them playing stupid because they don't want to do their jobs. Y'all know what's up. You know the tune. There's also literally thousands sell a false narrative over me speaking and try to pawn me off on others. I explain to them over and over what the situation is. They talk over me. They literally hear nothing I have to say. By the way, I have been described as tenacious as fuck on more than one occasion. One of the people who hates me the most, who even made a couple of fake profiles to harass me and even made a Sean Schwartz hate group. She wanted to call this the Sean Show. Anybody who helped me was what'd she call them? A groupie for the Sean Show. Welcome to the Sean Show. There's also the way that police have utilized when these places tell me to call 911 and I call 911. 911 bullies me, and the police bully me for calling 911. Meanwhile, I'm told by these other agencies to call 911. When I try to call in immediately, I'm bullied by 911 or bullied by the police when they get there. They tell me it's not a crime, but guaranteed if I do it, they'll charge me with a crime. Won't they? Like right now, they're trying to charge me as a criminal for calling 911. Well, they didn't do their job in any of the situations here where I was assaulted or had my life threatened. So what am I supposed to do? They won't allow me a place to sit down in peace and quiet and write down what I need to. I'm stuck in public, and as an autistic person with PTSD, it's pretty obvious that I'm not capable of defending myself or doing any of the things that they're asking other than just making the phone calls, and that is costing me $20 a day in gasoline. Dogged Empire typed, you are being gaslighted by them, is another word for it. Exactly. I'm being gaslighted by mandated reporters. Thank you for recognizing it. Now please speak up. Please speak up for me and with me. Explain what you've seen. Understand that there's a lot of mean shit that I've done. There's also a lot of evidence that's been falsified by others. And there's also a lot of things that I did, in fact, and indeed say, but they were taken out of context. So, Dogged Empire, if you could send me an email to doggedroman@gmail.com, I'll forward you that piece of evidence. That way you can verify it's you. And hopefully we can exchange at least some contact information that would allow us to make the phone calls together.
There's no more racing. I'm done. No more racing. You guys aren't nice about it, and you don't care about each other. Get in the car. Let's go. Stand up. I don't care. I'm tired of this shit. It's not a fucking race. It's never gonna be racing. Brass, Helen, you're over here. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. What's that?
Alright, Dogged Empire typed, a person can only take so much before they lash out. I get it, and yep, we'll drop you an email. Now you guys, if you could make a general list tonight, a lot of the stuff that you've seen and the importance of it and the way that I was bullied and gaslighted, and each of you try to send it out to maybe 5 of your friends that actually believe in social justice, and maybe 5 news outlets, and also, if you can, the police agencies that I speak about in the videos. It needs to be recognized that I have been trying to turn them in, and that their friends and their coworkers are bullying me. That they're going out of their way to play stupid, and that when I tell on them, then they immediately start playing victim and pretending like I've harmed them. Now you guys can all tell that I am verbally abusive. That is no joke. But between my cursing and what they've done to me, which one is worse? I know it sounds like a lot of work, but if you make up one basic letter, you can change it a little bit at a time as it goes along. I did that and ended up with a very, very long, almost probably about 10 novels worth of information. It was all destroyed by a friend of my sister's who just... I was so nice to him. Anyway, my life is in immediate risk. Immediate. And these people want to blow it off as if it's not. Them neglecting to do their jobs immediately, when the crimes immediately happened, is the problem. Officers there immediately, when it happened, pawning me off on mental health. Mental health, pawning me off on the police. It's not that I didn't turn these things in right away. It's that the police, if I relocate to a different location for my safety, which we're supposed to be allowed to do, then magically the safety issue is gone and it's never going to happen again and they don't have to investigate. These predators got away because police officers wouldn't investigate. And these police officers have been busted doing these things to other people. We have other witnesses, other victims on my channel. I don't know if it's the same Ashley or not, but there's an Ashley here that I was told about this morning who's trying to turn in Officer Reeves because I haven't heard her story on it. It was her friend Scott that told me that she was either sexually assaulted by Officer Reeves or that he was trying to sexually proposition her while in uniform. Lighthouse Society typed, is it coffee cake time? Lighthouse Society, is that an OCD thing that you do, or are you just being a dick? Anyway, like I said, please send it out to as many people as you can. Make sure that people do know what's going on. Get the information out there. With everything full of evidence, it's difficult to record stuff too. Good Empire. See, that's the thing, is that my predators, all of the stuff that I supposedly did for myself was used to show that I'm able to take care of myself, and then I ripped off a bunch of people. But all of this stuff that they pretend I was able to do for myself, I had to pay people for help doing it. Because mandated reporters didn't want to do their jobs. Also, if one of you has the balls to actually make as many calls as it takes with me, and mind you, my phone is going to die and I'll have to let it recharge. I only expose people's numbers when they scam me and bully me and berate me and play victim or try to bully me out of turning in my predators. I don't like being scammed and I don't like being lied to. But if you're true to your word, I'll be true to mine. I've broken my word plenty of times to people who broke their word. And then, of course, when somebody else breaks their word, they whine like a mule, don't they? Well, that's all right. I'm not going to hate them. I just hate what they did. As far as making the phone calls together, you can also make sure that if you don't feel comfortable doing it that way, because I do have a reputation for giving out people's numbers now. I don't like being ripped off or gaslighted. You can do this through email with me. Just make sure that you send me a copy of everything that you send so that we have documentation that was turned in. When they try to tell you things like, You can't turn in a crime for someone else, or you can't make a report for someone else. You're not making a report for someone else. You're making a report for yourself, for your safety, and for our safety as a community. You're allowed to make a voluntary statement about abuse against an at-risk adult, and you should be allowed to do so. If you could bombard 988 with this abuse, as well as the local sheriff's department and the police department, let them know that this is not okay and that I am not alone. Instead of giving the impression that I'm not alone and then showing that or instead of giving the impression that I'm alone and then literally proving that I'm alone, because I'm still begging people after all these years to please come forward. Also, after you've sent something, make sure that when you send it out, that you type my name in the link. That way I can have access to it, and I have access to show it in court. Oh, God, I have scraped so much nasty wax out of my ear today. Let's see, Lighthouse Society type, just trying to lighten the mood, brother. Maybe a bit of both, LOL. Well, I know you're trying to lighten the mood, Lighthouse Society, but, how about, have you looked up the Lighthouse here in Tillamook yet? Lighthouse Society, also type my IQ is similar to yours, but manifests itself differently. I cope with comedy. I'm not sure if you noticed, when I have to pretend that everything's okay when I'm in a state of crisis, I just try to make people smile until I can get the fuck out of there. Please turn in this video, and please go back to as many other videos as you can. Please show how I'm being retaliated against for trying to turn in mandated reporters, about how stupid they play, and about how, well, we know what their protocols are. They all go through it. What are the protocols that make it so they don't have to do their jobs? They can pawn it off on someone else. They can change the subject. They can claim you should have made a 911. They claim what you should have done without finding out what you did. They talk over you as mandated reporters. They are not supposed to do that. They betray our trust by doing that. They do not send us to their supervisors. They send us to the wrong numbers, or repeatedly hang up on us. And then when I call back and say you hung up, just like the being bullied by a 911 operator video, he tried to bully me repeatedly till he realized that he was being recorded and he could potentially end up in prison for what he was doing. See, that's the thing. These mandated reporters, at this point, these are not misdemeanors that they've committed. They've committed felonies. They've played stupid and sent me to the wrong people enough times intentionally. Enough times that it's obvious that they're not just playing stupid. They're going out of their way not to do their jobs. Oh, good. I found my check from Tillamook County Corrections. By the way, they also stole a quarter that was from 1942 that's made out of silver. If I can get this cashed at U.S. Bank Tillamook branch, I get $38.98. It only took me all day to find it. I'll put it in my pocket. Also, the thing from Marcia Estrada. There's also a conversation with Marcia Estrada. If you could send that in, it's called Marcia Estrada, LIMHP. And if you guys could each of you send me an email within the next 10 minutes or so. I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to start charging my phone while I go pee, and then I'll be back and I'll try to forward that to y'all. Sound good? Also, Lighthouse Society, if you come here instead of lightening the mood, try to focus on the fact that we're trying to turn in abuse. That's the goal here. Not making light of the situation, not making jokes, not changing the subject, ever. It's important to take it seriously, or I have to endure this for the rest of my life. You know how we end these videos. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.